Hello, hello. Welcome to Do What You Love Live. I'm so excited that you're here. If you are looking for unique strategies to live a more creative and fulfilling life, you are in the right place because that is what we do. We are here to help you unlock your creative life through conversations with cool people. And today, my special guest that I'm so excited to introduce you to is my friend Stephanie Ritz. She is a business strategist, a mindset coach, and a full time traveler. Yes. So if you have ever thought, oh, well, what's it like to be a digital nomad and just being able to work from wherever and do whatever? And this is what she's been doing for, I think, about 3 years now. We'll chat with her. And she helps aspiring coaches and consultants to start and grow their business alongside their 9 to 5. So if it's something that you're thinking about doing, if you are interested in maybe you want to stay at your corporate job, she has corporate experience and experience in entrepreneurship and building successful businesses. So she kind of gets to see things from both sides. And in today's world where it is so easy to work remotely, we're going to talk to her about what's it like building a business and then also just kind of working remotely. What does that look like, feel like, and all the things. So please join me in welcoming Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking some
Hi,
time.
Kate. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and catch up with you and share all the tips, strategies, stories that we can for anybody who is looking for a little creative inspo.
Yes, for sure. And I just asked Stephanie where you are filming from. So where are you in the world?
I am currently in London. This is my last week here. I've been here for 3 weeks and getting ready for my next stop, which is Paris.
Oh, nice. How often do you have like a set schedule? Like does it depend on where you're going that you decide the time frame you're going to stay?
Yeah, so in this part of the world, I have to kind of stay within the visa limits of 90 days out of a 180-day period. So I have planned out my sort of European travel around the visa restrictions, but generally I stay in each place for a month so that I can work, really focus on that, and not have to be a tourist, like take my time and really enjoy the city and do things at a leisurely pace. And yeah, kind of become like a little community member for a month before moving on to my next destination.
I love it. I love it. All right. So in 30 seconds or less, how would you describe to someone who you are and what you do?
I am a very multi-passionate woman. I am a mom, I am a full-time traveler, and I am a business strategist and mindset coach. And as you shared in the intro, I help people start their dream business alongside their corporate jobs so that they can have their best life of freedom, whatever that looks like for them.
Ugh, I love it. And what is your definition of a creative life?
A life that you get to design outside of the box, not necessarily what society tells you you should be doing based on how long you've been educated, how many years old you are, what stage of life you should be in right now, but being able to design something for what makes you feel fulfilled and happy. That is my idea of a creative life.
And you decided, like, talk about this journey because I think you and I met in 2020 around like
Yep.
COVID time, right? And isn't that about the time that you decided to make this transformation in your life? Like how did that come about? Where were you and how did you make the decision to go to be a full-time traveler?
This was never in the plan. This wasn't like one day I'm going to travel full time. Like I never in my wildest dreams even thought that this was a thing that people did. And right before COVID, I had gotten divorced and my son had left the nest. And so I found myself sort of alone and thought, what do I do with myself now? Like I have this corporate career, but now I kind of get to do whatever I want to do for the first time in my adult life. So I planned a couple of trips. And unfortunately, one of those trips was a 3 week trip to South Africa that was planned for March 2020. And I didn't get to go. I got all the way to the airport when they canceled it because of the pandemic. And it was such early stages that no one really knew what was happening. So I didn't know the next year I was going to be spending at home by myself. And so I was just so devastated after that. And I was thinking to myself, why am I so devastated? I can reschedule this trip. It's not the end of the world. But it was like, I waited so long to have this opportunity. And this is really important to me. Like I front loaded all of my vacation time, which, in the US in corporate, you get very limited vacation time. So to really invest all of it in this one trip and then to have it slip out of my fingers and be so impactful, it really struck me like I want to do something that brings in more freedom into my life. Like when I think about what my values are, freedom is my number one value. And I just didn't have the level of freedom that I was looking for in my corporate job. So that's what started the business. And that was kind of like one of the reasons I started the business. But I thought this is going to be my opportunity. I had a really successful business in my early 20s. And I always kind of had that entrepreneurship bug. And I thought this is my time to embrace that again. Like I've enjoyed my time in corporate. I felt really blessed to have such an amazing corporate career. But now it's my time. And so I built my business alongside my corporate job. And a year in, I had that conversation with my boss that I think many people had after COVID. Can I continue to work remotely, or can I continue to, relocate and work with my team online? And I had been really successful during COVID in my corporate career. And my boss still said no. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to create a plan and I'm going to get out. So I created my exit strategy, but I thought, as a mindset coach, I know the power of taking action and that creating your reality. And so I thought, I'm not going to wait to actually start traveling. I'm going to do it right now. Literally 2 months after that conversation, all my things were sold. I moved out of my house and I started living in hotels and Airbnbs all around New England, which was my territory for work. And so I did that for a year before I was ready to actually quit my job responsibly, how to plan in place. And then I've been traveling internationally ever since.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So, all right. So I love the fact that you were very strategic. This isn't something I feel like sometimes people, when we, especially in this Instagram world of we see people's, I just dropped everything and I went and did this and pursued my dream, which is that's yes, we all have the ability to do that. But the fact that you really created a plan in which that you can then follow and do, that's obviously important. When you thought about the places that you wanted to go, where was the first place that you went internationally?
Well, it's funny. On the Clubhouse app, we connected with so many people. Like, if you weren't in that space, you really miss a beautiful opportunity to connect with people in a really strange and deep way so quickly, right? And so I met a group of strangers online that I really connected with. And one of them invited me to go on a safari with a group of people she had already arranged to go with. And I didn't know any of them, and I didn't even know her. We met on Clubhouse app. But I said, sure, I'm going to go. I'm just going to go for it. So I already knew I was going on that safari. And so I had to figure out where I was going to go first and then there, and then kind of, sort of just decide from there anywhere that I wanted to go. So I had 3 weeks between leaving my job and going to this safari. So I thought, let me just pick somewhere not too far away that I could easily get to Kenya. And so I picked Lisbon, Portugal as my first destination. And it was absolutely incredible. A little bit scary because I had never traveled internationally completely alone. I had done group trips and stuff like that, but this was like alone, getting an Airbnb, figuring out how to like buy groceries in an international grocery store, like such basic things that you just don't think about when you go on vacation, because this is now your life for 3 weeks. So that's where I picked. And then from there, it was kind of like I had met someone else on Clubhouse. She invited me to come visit her in Malaysia. So I went to Malaysia after Kenya. And then I was already in that part of the world, which I never thought I would be in. So from there, it was just kind of like geographically, where can I go next that makes sense, that's close by, that I've always wanted to visit. And so it's been kind of like just kind of step by step with what makes sense and what feels exciting to go to. And I can't believe I've been traveling internationally, for like a year and a half at this point, 2.5 years altogether, starting in the US. And it's been incredible.
That takes a lot of courage to just get up and I mean, it takes a lot to just move to a different state, let alone a different country, and then not even
Yeah.
know where you're gonna go to next. So when you talk about obviously there's some fear there. How long
Yeah.
did it take you to stop that? I mean, I feel like, is that still there? Have you gotten over it? Is it just like, I mean, how long did it take to actually get to a place where you're like, yeah, this is easy and I make it work and I figure it out?
I think depending on the country I'm going to, different small fears come up. Like, I don't know the language. How difficult is it going to be here? Transportation, what's that going to be like? Because I have a lot of what people might even call irrational fears. Like, I have a fear of international transportation, not airplanes, but like trains, buses. I'm afraid of like just finding myself in the middle of nowhere, not understanding the language, not having Wi-Fi on my phone, like things
I
like
feel like
that.
there's
And
a lot of people that have that same fear, which prohibits
yeah,
them from traveling, especially traveling alone.
yeah. And I still get that. Absolutely. But I just, courage is another one of my personal values. And so it's like, okay, I can just not go, not do the things and stay safe, or push myself to be uncomfortable, be courageous, do the things that I find scary. And I've been in those situations where it's like, okay, I don't know where I am. I've definitely gotten off on the wrong stop, and I had to figure it out. And I always do. There's always a way. And people in the world are much kinder than I think we give them credit for. And so I really leaned on that. And yeah, just chose to be brave in the face of feeling the fear and deciding it's worth it to be scared and try than to just not do the thing and not have these life experiences.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have to push through that. That is well, you are a mindset coach, so you know how to. So what are some things, what do you feel like has been the biggest mistake that you've made so far in your traveling adventures?
I think this is just for me personally, sort of winging it in the beginning because I wanted to embrace this side of myself where it's like, be free, just go be in flow and don't feel the pressure of having a plan. That did not work for me. I felt like anxiety around not knowing what was coming down the pipeline, like even just budgeting wise and planning wise, and for my business, where am I going to be? So I stopped pushing myself to try and be something that I wasn't because I thought it was going to give me something that I didn't have, and really leaned into the fact that, you know what, you are a planner. This is one of your strengths. Activator is my number one strength. If I can activate myself into a strategy and a plan, I'm going to feel more excited for this process. So now I always book my travels 6 months out. So I know where I'm going. I know how to budget. I can, plan things accordingly for my life, for my business, even visits home. And I just feel more happy being in that space of having a plan and not trying to push myself into an ideology like it would be better if you just went in flow and didn't have a plan. That's just not who I am.
Oh, I think that that can resonate with so many people, regardless of what they're regardless if they're traveling or not. It just in general, right? I think we all have this idea of we want to emulate someone else and their skills are very different than our skills. So to be so self-aware to recognize this is what I do and that's okay and you just make it work.
Yeah.
What if someone's watching, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this seems really scary. I feel like I would love to maybe take a year and travel, but it all the fears that you're mentioning, they have in their head too. They're thinking about how challenging it really is and now I have to like, do I have to move and give up my place? All of those things. What are three things that you wish you knew prior to getting up and traveling that you would offer to somebody listening?
I think I am an advocate for having a plan, obviously, as I shared before. The whole idea of like just get up and go, maybe in my 20s would have worked, but I'm a grown ass woman at this point. Like, I have to have certain luxuries or certain things that will make travel feel good for me. So I didn't want to have to like do it in a way where it was like, this is how I'm going to get by so that I can travel the world. And so I think if you're thinking about just traveling and going, number one, be really clear on why you want to do this and what you want to get out of it. Because if you just do it on a whim without some sort of thought process of this is how much money it's going to take to be able to travel in the style that I want to do. Like, what if you get to the places and then you don't have the money to do any of the things you'd always hope that you would do there? I think that's just really important. Having a savings plan, having a really clear understanding of like your travel style so that you can really embrace and enjoy it once you get there. And really owning that this is what you want for you, because there's going to be people who think you're crazy. There's going to be people who will try and talk you out of pursuing the life that you want. And it's not for everyone. And it's also not your job to convince other people that this is the right choice for you. So once you get grounded in this is why I want to do this is what I want to get out of it, this is my plan to do it, share it with the people who you feel will support you and encourage you. And don't worry about the rest. It's their own limiting beliefs projecting onto you that you can't have this, unique and fun travel lifestyle.
You work with a lot of people, some of whom want to do this same thing that you're doing. What are the biggest challenges that your clients are coming to you to work on?
For single people like me, I think, leaning on like, I have these corporate benefits and, I have this paycheck. What if I don't have that anymore and I don't have a partner to support me? And I did all of these things single, my first business, my second business. And so that's where like responsible adult planning does come into place, right? Like I did the research on what private health insurance was going to cost. I set up my own retirement account before I left. I had a financial plan and strategy in place, as well as a savings, because in entrepreneurship, there is going to be a roller coaster of ups and downs. You're going to have fantastic months. You're going to have, less than fantastic months. But if you can plan for that in advance, then you won't have to feel anxiety around money or feeling the need to have that other financial support. You can really own that space and time, and it shifts your mindset to not be in a scarcity mindset. It really is what it will attract more people to you in your business. So I think, just the mindset of, can I do this alone, for the single people, I think is really big. And then also, I think in theory, it sounds amazing. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, I travel the world, or I stay at home with my kids. But that corporate identity is really powerful for these high achieving people that I work with. So shifting away from that identity, the significance they have in their positions, which I can totally relate to. I was a senior VP in banking. I was a VP of operations for a large national company. I really appreciated that about myself. I felt accomplished and proud to share that with people. And so the mindset shift of, I'm an entrepreneur, and what that means in our own mind when we hear people say that, really has to shift to something that you feel as a powerful, empowered choice. And it's not like, oh, well, you became a consultant because you lost your job. You're making a choice to live life differently, to impact people in a different way, and to really own your expertise and make an impact with what you know, with the people and businesses that you support. And not just saying that, but really thinking it, feeling it, believing it, I think is a huge shift for people coming out of corporate.
So how would you say your life I don't e how would you say your life is more I don't even know if saying more fulfilling is the right way, but I'm curious, like, how was your life before versus how it is now? Like, why you're so excited to live this kind of lifestyle and travel so much? Like, what are you getting out of it that makes you continue to live this lifestyle?
I mean, in the last year and a half, I've been to 13 countries, and I've lived in 13 countries, not just a weekend or a week long visit. Like, I've been experiencing life in 13 different countries, and I have grown so much from that experience. I have seen things that I never thought these eyes would see in person. It has really like helped me grow as a person to experience different cultures, not just read about it or watch it on the internet, but really embrace myself in it. And we talked about like just pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Like going to those international grocery stores was a real concern for me. I am a clean eater. I am very selective with the things that I eat. And so like trying to find foods and learning like, what this experience is going to be like and how I'm going to be, getting around without a car and doing things that I did at home and now I can't do here. I have to find other means and ways, and just connecting with people I never would have connected with in any other circumstance. It's hard to articulate how it changes you as a person, but I just have such a new appreciation for life, and I've had so much fun. I really embraced the adventure of travel, climbing the Sydney Harbor Bridge, climbing a volcano in Bali, rock climbing in Malaysia, like things I never thought I would do, that I've done. And I think what just really like keeps me excited about this is if something happened tomorrow, which tomorrows are never promised, was like another compelling reason for me. There was like a lot of loss of life around the 2020 few years, and I'm like, if something happened tomorrow that I couldn't travel anymore, I will have zero regrets ever for making this life choice, embracing this lifestyle, and having these experiences at this age, at this stage of life where I'm so self aware. I know exactly what I want and I can really fully embrace it. And on the flip side, because listen, there's ups and downs to all life choices. We were chatting a little bit about this before we went live. You know, the things that I felt challenged with at home, I still feel challenged with on the road. There's times where I absolutely miss my family. I was just talking to my mom a little bit before this, and I miss that, being able to see them or talk to them sometimes even in the same time zone. That's difficult sometimes, but thanks to technology, we stay in touch. And also, being single, like I can't just drive over to my friends or go see my sister. Like those are things that I no longer have the option to do while I'm traveling, which kind of forces me to connect with people in another way. So that's a positive thing. But at the end of the day, when you just need a friend or even need a hug and you're by yourself, that's challenging. But that was challenging for me at home too, as a single person. And I know that the singletons out there will appreciate that. That is kind of, you don't lose that by traveling, but you do gain other things, and it enriches your life in different ways.
So are you, speaking of being single, do you date when you're living? I mean, how does that work if somebody knows that you're only going to be there for like a month? What does that look like?
So here's my dating hack for people who are traveling. When I get to a new place, I get on the dating apps like hardcore in the first week, because a month is a good amount of time to like meet someone and potentially go on a second or third date to see if something might spark there. Because I have the luxury of planning to come back. Like if I find someone that I really connect with, I can invite them to travel with me, or I can just plan to go back to that place and see them again, in however long it takes, for that travel rotation to occur. But I do get on the dating apps, and I will say, lucky for me, having been in corporate in a role where I traveled a lot for work. I was used to going to bars and restaurants by myself and having dinner, having a drink, and starting conversations with people because I was doing it all the time for work. So I take those same approaches when I'm traveling internationally. And yeah, they love an American accent, especially over here in Europe. So that really helps like connecting with people. All you got to do is like talk to the bartender, and people will kind of like look around like, oh, there's an American at the bar.
And vice
Yeah.
versa. When they come over here, we're like, ooh.
It's so exotic, right? I know, that's so funny. It's so true. But yeah, the dating apps are used internationally. They're not my favorite. I don't think anyone loves dating apps, but it's an option, and I do go on dates. And yeah, I think if I found that special someone, I would consider creating a home base with them, but still just kind of continuing to travel either together or take solo trips on my own. So I'm putting that out to the universe.
All right, nice. Well, so speaking of people, obviously you're in different cultures, you're meeting all different kinds of people. What do you find are the differences and similarities to all the different places that you go?
Yeah, that's such a big question, because there is something unique about every place that I've been. There's like subtle shifts in the culture, but the thing that really struck me, especially after a full year of international travel, is that while it's on a different scale, everybody's dealing with the same problems, and
Mm,
people are genuinely good. I mean, there's bad people everywhere you go, and everyone has to kind of deal with that in some level. But people are all kind of going through the same life experiences. When I talk to like tour guides or Uber drivers or local people, like, they are having the same conversations with their kids, with their partners, talking about work, that everybody else does in the world. So that commonality, I just found to be really charming. It doesn't matter where in the world you live. People can't stand their spouse sometimes, or their kids are driving them nuts, or they're worried about their parents aging. They've got to take their dog to the vet. Like, it's all the same stuff, but the scale and the amount of worry that people put on those things is different from country to country. And I find that really fascinating, and just the way that they embrace life differently. The problems aren't different, but the way that they experience them are different.
Oh, that's so interesting. Where's
Yeah.
like the most chill place? Where are the people
Uh,
like the most chill?
um, I think Australia.
Really?
Yeah, I think Australia. I think the tourists in Southeast Asia are the most chill, but the people who live there work their butts off. I mean, they really do. Yeah, it's definitely different. Like, you're kind of looking at it in two phases, like the people who are visiting there versus the people who live there. But I would say in general, the most chill people, yeah, have been the Australians across Australia, from Perth to Sydney. I went to like 5 different stops and they were all the same.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
over there living their best life. I love Australia.
You mentioned grocery shopping a couple of times. Have you been able to navigate that through? Like, what are you eating when you're going to these different places? Do you have to again, you're like moving pretty quickly. A month is not really that much time to get accoladed to different foods and stuff. So what are you noticing around food and all that?
Yeah, I use Google Translate a lot, which is helpful. You can take a picture. It's a free app. If anybody does not use Google Translate when they're traveling, download it and download the country's language that you're in so that you can use it offline as well. If I'm not getting good reception, like in the grocery store, I'll literally type in things just to be sure, like, is this wheat or is this whole grain or is this gluten free? What exactly is this saying? But yeah, I do eat like more of the things that I would eat at home. I try to find some of like the staple things that I would make at home if I can find the healthy options to make them. But I do have to sort of navigate what's available based on what country I'm in, and what's available to me, because it is very different. I try to embrace like local foods when I'm out to eat, so that somebody else is properly cooking it and preparing it, and I can really enjoy like the flavor of the country that I'm in. But when I'm cooking, it's kind of like being at home. Like, I only go out to eat maybe once or twice a week. The rest of the time I'm preparing food at home. That way I have a little bit more control over what I'm consuming. But still I think food is an important part of experiencing the culture. So I do try to embrace that. I had a hard time with it, I will say, in Southeast Asia. It was a lot more fried than I expected and really heavy on the carbs. But I still went for it here and there.
You're like eat, pray, loving it over there.
Yeah, Florence is my stop after Paris, and I have no boundaries. I am eating all the foods when I
Oh
get
my
there.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Do you have a favorite place that you've been so far? Like that you feel like is a really great place to live, work, and play?
Uh, I have loved 95% of the places I've been to. I would say that there's only one place where I'm like, I would not go back. Everywhere else I've been to, I would definitely go back. But for
Where would
me,
you not go back? You don't.
I don't know if I should say. Should I say? I'm gonna get hate comments. Um, Here's what I'll say. I enjoyed the city, but I was there way too long, and that was Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. I think it's a beautiful place to visit for like 3 to 5 days, and then that's enough. Like, you can move on to one of the islands or do something else outside of the city. But I was just there for way, way too long. As you were saying, to live, work, and play. It's more of like a a long weekend destination, in my personal opinion. But everywhere else I've really loved. But the English speaking countries for me are obviously easier. And we're lucky as Americans, they speak English throughout the world generally, not everywhere. There has been some places where there's literally zero English that I've been to, which has been challenging. But I will say I'm going back to Florence. This has been my second time because I loved it the first time. And Ireland and London, I have absolutely loved. I just had the absolute best time in Ireland, and I would go back there in a heartbeat. And same London, I've really been enjoying my experience and my time here as well. And Australia, there was not one place in Australia that I was like, take it or leave it. I could go back and spend a month in every place that I went to in Australia easily and absolutely love it.
Do you feel like what is your plan for I don't know, what's your 5-year plan? Do you ever think that you're going to settle down? Are you going to come back to the US? Do you think you're going to do this for a few more years? Or do you feel like there's a city or there's a country that you feel really drawn to that you would potentially end up living?
For me, like I do go home. I go home like every 6 months. I kind of make my rounds to see my mom, my sister, and my son, spend time with them, and do all the doctor's visits and all those things while I'm home. So I do love going home, but I also I'm ready to go after a couple months of being home. The culture is just so different everywhere in the world, and I didn't know that I would feel that way. I didn't expect to feel that way because I'm very much a patriot of the US, but the experiences at home are just different than abroad. And I mean, for me, I have no 5-year plan, which is weird because I've always been such a planner, but I'm kind of just going in flow as far as how long this is going to last. I'm going to do it until I just don't want to do it anymore, or I meet someone that compels me to stay where they are. As I said earlier, I would absolutely create a home base with someone who I felt would be an amazing life partner and is also open to traveling with me, or, I can continue to travel alone and just have a home base with them. Yeah, until I either meet that person or just feel tired of travel life, I'm just going to keep going. And I don't know how long that will be. I'm not going to kind of put the pressure on myself to say, well, let's evaluate in 6 months. Just that I will say is the first time I think I've ever kind of been in flow with my life and just allowing things to unfold naturally. And that feels good.
What if you had to pick one experience? You mentioned hiking and going to all these really incredible places, but if there was one experience that really stands out to you the most in the past couple of years, where were you and what were you doing?
There was an experience in Phuket, Thailand that I just loved everything about it. It was called John Gray's Canoeing. I'm pretty sure that was the name of it. And you go on this very large boat, and there's a chef on board, prepares you fresh lunch, and you just, eat to your heart's content. And then you go with these canoe boys, 2 people in this tiny canoe, and they canoe for you. So you're just riding in a canoe, and you go into these caves that are so shallow that you have to lay all the way back.
Oh, I saw videos of this.
Yeah. You literally have to lay in the canoe to get underneath the caves, and they canoe you through, and then you're in these just insanely beautiful lagoons that you would never be able to get to otherwise, and it is breathtaking. And then once you've done all of these sort of little excursions in these different areas, you have this beautiful dinner, and then you create this offering to the sea. It's this whole beautiful flower ritual. You do this with your canoe guy. And then you have this offering in this cave at nighttime. It's completely dark, but there's bioluminescence in the water. So you brush your fingers against the water and it all lights up, and then they light these candles in this offering. So it's a whole cultural experience. And then you get to see the sunset. I mean, it from start to finish, I think it was just the most magical experience that I've had, that had a little fun, adventure, laughter, food, all of the things. And it was absolutely a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah.
For someone that's thinking about, I think a lot of people want to travel more, especially single people that want to go out and travel a little bit more, but maybe not commit to a total lifestyle change of doing this year round. What's a good like first step? Where's a good first place to go maybe to someone that's not traveled internationally before and they just kind of want to, just spark their curiosity a little bit and get out there and see what it would be like.
Glad that I did it alongside my 9 to 5 to start with, and I did it in the US because that really does give you a general sense of being on your own, being in a new place, even though it's still the comfort of like your home country, and seeing what it's like to work and be there because it is a different experience than going on vacation, right? Like on vacation, you have a limited time, you're trying to squeeze all of the things in. But when it becomes like your lifestyle, you experience it differently. So if I was just starting out, I think going somewhere that you either, kind of speak the language there or have some level of comfort and do it for an extended period of time in a way where, okay, if I was going to travel, this is how I would want to experience it. This is what I would do. And that's what I did. I stayed in different Airbnbs in the US for a month to 2 months. And it kind of gave me a sense of, okay, this is what's really important for me. This doesn't matter as much. I have to start budgeting for these types of things. This is how I need to plan my time around work and doing the things that I want to do. And so I just kind of transferred that same experience into the international realm. And it was a great kind of, cohesion of I've been doing this and now I'm just doing it in a different location. And then you can kind of decide like this is something I'd love to do full time, or no, this isn't for me. I kind of like having my house and my home and all of my things because you don't have access to all of your things anymore. Like I had to get rid of 90% of my things. I've got a small amount of stuff still left in my sister's basement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's I like that. That's great advice. Years ago, I thought that I wanted to live somewhere else, and so I had a friend of mine who lived in South Carolina in Charleston, and I was
Mm.
like, I think I need to just leave South Florida and just go somewhere else and experience a different city. And so she said, "Why don't you come up here and stay with me for?" And so I stayed with her for a few months, and it was a beautiful. It was like the best time, but just like what you're talking about, I had to learn where's my grocery store? Where's my gym? What am I doing? And then I went on dates. I joined like the Chamber of Commerce. Like you do all the things like in a different city. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking after a couple months, I'm like, oh yeah, like you can build a life anywhere you go.
Yep.
And you can experience all different kinds of things. And everywhere you go has its uniqueness. But they all have different things you can do, different places to go and people to experience. And so I think that's a great first step, especially for someone who hasn't traveled a lot, especially alone, is to kind of do it around here first. All right, what is one thing that people can do, one activity, 10 minutes or less to live a more creative life?
I think it's getting really, really honest with yourself around what you want your life to be without thinking of how. I think it's just so, so important because the how is what stops people from pursuing the thing that they really want. So if you can get really focused, and I would say this is a journal prompt, right? I would write it out, something really easy and practical. What is it that I want for my life? If I could design it in any way that I wanted to, what would that look like? And then once you are really clear on that and you've taken some time, like come back to it in a week and make sure that that's really true for you, that this isn't like something that someone else has said would be a good idea for you or something you're not really sure you want. Really allow yourself the creative freedom to say, this is how I would design my life if I could do it any way that I wanted to. And then once you're clear on that and you've gotten really grounded on why that's so important for you to have that type of lifestyle, then one step at a time, you can start figuring out the how. But don't think about the how to begin with because that will stop you in your tracks. And that's when all the fear and limiting beliefs come up. Find the resources necessary to bring that to fruition once you're clear on exactly what you want.
Awesome. Sounds like a great journaling prompt to me. Just like a
Yeah.
little great journaling prompt to write out what that would look like. Well, Stephanie, I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you took some time. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing your experience. It is definitely one that provides a creative life for sure. I can only imagine what it's like. But I appreciate you taking the time.
You're so welcome, Kate. I'm so happy to chat with you, and thanks so much for having me.
Awesome.